I think it was a very invigorating day yesterday. And we talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the philanthropic world. Looked at the enabling environment. And today, we want to spend some time discussing some particular constituencies within the philanthropic world, women, youth, looking at specific contributions that they have made, some of the innovative strategies that they have used.
This morning we are going to be having, hopefully, an informal conversation around women's rights and philanthropy on the African continent. We have a distinguished panel of African women who have been doing great work in their communities to promote women's rights issues and to mobilize resources to address those needs. Over the past 20 years since Beijing, a lot has happened for good on the continent. We have achieved a lot in terms of trying to push boundaries and push agendas to raise the status of women on the continent. Another thing to celebrate is the fact that we've been able to change political landscapes. 20 years ago, we were still beating on the doors about having more women in decision making, about including women's voices in terms of leadership in their communities. 2015, a lot of things have moved because in many of our communities, women are now playing very key roles in decision making at all levels. What inspires you and what do you think your most significant achievements have been in promoting the rights of women and girls?
We as Africans have always been philanthropists. We've always been giving without any expectations, and we've done that very, very well. It's been 30 years in the music industry, and it's been 10 years since I became a UNICEF and a rollback malaria and a UN Goodwill Ambassador. 10 years ago, when my musician died, when I came back from Gabon, she contracted malaria, and I didn't know what happened. Went back home, she was misdiagnosed, and she died. But before that, I've been just doing things as a musician. You know, you want to do things because you sing, you want to do things. When Phumzile died, I was so upset because I thought, why did she die? I was also totally ignorant about malaria. I didn't know what had happened. 5 months down the line, I got a call from New York. They were looking for this Yvonne Chaka Chaka to be a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. And in the history of the UN, I chose a cause. I said to them, I would like to be a UN Goodwill Ambassador for malaria. You never thought it could be until it happens to you. So I chose to be a Goodwill Ambassador for malaria because I was ignorant about it. I needed to be educated about it. And I needed to also educate others about malaria. And I am very humbled to say today we have done a lot of work about malaria, and today we do have World Malaria Day.
You are a performance artist. We've seen a lot of artists from different parts of the world who have done a lot of work raising awareness around the challenges we face in Africa, helping us raise resources and drawing attention to a lot of these issues. How do you feel about some of these artists seeming to have more influence or being taken more seriously than artists such as yourself who are doing the same thing within your own community?
Charity begins at home to start with. It's like wanting to not play Tanzanian music but would play Jay-Z. How stupid. Charity begins at home. But it's actually very sad because we don't appreciate what is ours. People do these things because they want to. Some do because they... When I tell some of my fellow artists, whether it's in Uganda or Kenya, or they say we want to be a Goodwill Ambassador, and I say, please come with me when I do all this work. Nobody believes that I don't get paid for what I do. I do it out of the goodness of my heart. So it's education as well to artists as well. We need to also educate them. But I really think we've got more young people who have influence, and we need to encourage that.
I've devoted myself or focused on making a difference in the lives of our people, just uplifting and empowering the lives of our children, youth, and women. And I've been doing this through the Navigator Development Foundation, which I founded in 2000. But we do carry out initiatives in community empowerment, sustainable development, health and education. I have been contributing to education through the provisions of scholarships to primary, secondary and university students, school facilities, promoted girl-child education and also advocated for quality education for all. I've also been engaged in grassroots and national advocacy campaign promoting sexual reproductive health and rights, including adolescent sexual health, reproductive health, maternal health, child health, family planning, and the prevention of HIV/AIDS. I also contribute or support other philanthropic organizations such as UNFPA, where I'm a Goodwill Ambassador, patron of Special Olympics, Child Fund, Conservation through Public Health, and several other organizations.
So I'd like to ask you, Your Real Majesty, in the work that you are doing, what challenges do you face in terms of trying to work within cultural institutions and ensure that you can try and find a way of making those institutions work more positively for women and girls?
My primary challenge has been being a pioneer. It's a pioneering philanthropic organization within Uganda Kingdom. Previously, interventions of the Navigator were few and informal, and they were actually done under the auspices of the Kabaka's office. We've done quite a number of things over the years, and we have persevered because it was also considered as a taboo by some elders. But just showing them what we were able to do in the foundation, the cynics were actually won over and were able to overcome that. So today you find that pretty much everybody sees that the foundation and the Navigator herself is doing a lot of credible work that's helping our people in the community. Most funders actually shun cultural institutions as being problematic or a political risk.
What inspires me are the people that are not in this room right now, right? And that is the reason why I got into this work of what I call philanthropic activism. So the young feminist organizers that are using poetry and spoken word in Namibia to talk about LGBT issues. Young women in prison in Egypt for protesting the anti-protest law. These are the people that inspire what I call philanthropic activism. And the reason I will say that I stepped into this work, I was actually inspired by a quote from a poet that I heard a long time ago called Gwendolyn Brooks. And she said, "We are each other's harvest and we are each other's business." Right? So I see philanthropy as an opportunity to love and care and support other people. And that's how I really stepped into this work. One of the things that I think I'm most proud of is being part of the collective that founded something called the Young Feminist Fund. And the Young Feminist Fund was inspired by funds like AWDF. And the reason we founded the Young Feminist Fund was because we thought that youth voices were missing from philanthropic spaces and conversations. So young women, young trans people that are organizing in really different and diverse ways, creating a space at the philanthropic table for young people to come and talk about the issues that matter most to them. That's what I'm most proud of.
One of the things that I was very proud of was the program that we started then called Where is the Money for Women's Rights? And this has become a flagship project for AWID now. So I want you to tell us briefly, before I throw it open to the group, where we are now with our findings from the Where is the Money project, and more specifically, what needs to be done to scale up the work that African women are doing within the philanthropic community.
I really think reframing the way that we work to one that is more collective. So to begin working in cross-movement ways, and I say this coming as an activist, coming from the women's movement, thinking not only in terms of, okay, what are we doing as a women's movement, we have to move from working in silos to begin to think about how we can collectively mobilize more resources for this work. Because for me, I can't get my head around the fact that we have funds like AWDF, funds like the Global Fund for Women, funds like Mama Cash that are in the Netherlands, that are really stretching resources to be able to support very, very important work that's happening, and that our budgets continue to be so small. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of how we can kind of scale up, or the ways in which we can kind of begin to do things differently, is really to think creatively and think out of the box. Right? There are new ways of supporting organizing that we also need to embrace and take on board. Every contribution counts, and we really need to be thinking creatively. We need to be thinking collectively. We need to be thinking about how we work cross movement. And why I say this to this audience is also as philanthropists and as donors, we also need to be thinking about the ways in which we support the mechanisms and the structures that allow that kind of cross movement work. As women's funds and as women's organizations, we need more money, we want more money, and we deserve more money. And beyond the money, we also deserve other resources that allow us to network, that allow us to convene with each other, that allow us to learn from each other. Right? Philanthropy is not just about money. It's about what we can learn from each other. Right? What we all bring to the table.
I think we miss out on the point when we say that, for instance, when we look at the criteria, whether it's a WDF or whatever, when they say that we want to fund girls projects, the organization must be led by a woman. And we're thinking, this is a girls project that is struggling to rise so that it can take up the leadership. So the girls project is hidden within a space, only that the man leads the organization. So I wish in a bid to mobilize resources for girls project or for women's movements, let's go beyond who leads this project, because by investing in that, then we will be able to bring women to the forefront.
We see women doing a lot when women are in leadership positions. We need to, or we can look at in terms of promoting women issues, is trying to also push for women in leadership when it comes to philanthropy, when it comes to development. Because in our own small way, I think we can do something.
I would quickly say, from the perspective of the Young Feminist Fund, we make an intentional effort to support young women in leadership positions, because we cannot have programs that talk about girls' leadership and women's leadership and have someone and not give them the opportunity to lead. So it's important to continue to support initiatives that are led by women.
But if we leave women and girls behind, and young boys, we will regret it. And if we don't do it now, we'll be judged by the next generation. We are old. We need to engage with young people now. 20 years ago, BC was in Beijing. In 20 years' time, it's going to be Amina and the young people. So we need to engage with them now, so that we can say they're the future now.
I'm very proud of the collaborative effort of the African Women's Rights Fund. This is the way to go. So united, we can go and demand for big money, for big ideas. Let's think big, let's dream big, and never ever give up. Because, hey, we are women, we are proud, and we are beautiful. Thank you all.
In addressing our agenda, we've had, in our 20 years, every 5 years we have religiously ensured we have revisited what is our strategy and reminding ourselves what is our mission. And at one time, I remember, in fact, even in the last 10 years while I've been around, there's a time we even relooked at our vision. For where we are as a country, as an organization, are we stating it in a very accurate, relevant way? We always wanted to be a sustainable African or Kenyan organization that is promoting community-led development. And community was key. The conversation around how do you get communities to own what they are doing? How do you work with them in a respectful, dignified manner? And of course, the other thing is communication. Because we found even in the board, we need strength in being able to have someone help us look at how we are communicating about ourselves. And I can tell you, we've rebranded our current brand, which I think most of you probably know, is our third one. And I'm just acknowledging that sometimes you may go through a branding process and not succeed. If people don't know you, how will they give you money? So it's something we assume, and for a long time, by the way, we had done work for many years before we realized there's something about our brand which nobody knows. and yet we call ourselves Kenyan. So that's something that I found we really must work on as.
I'm one of those who believes that for Africa to transform, that transformation has to come from the agricultural sector.
How do we get some of these good practices replicated in other areas of Africa?
What should be our area of focus in terms of what kind of significant and impactful projects do we implement in our communities?
My own ideological view on impact investing and social investing is that the optimum return should be inflation, so that you preserve the value of the capital investing. It can't be looking for the type of returns you get in normal private equity investing. We have to invest in creating social capital because that's what produces the educated kids. That's what produces the road so that the normal capitalists can go and make money.
Where does impact investments come in? You need the funding for this. You need the startup funds and others. So the question is, and I think our colleague Sunday was reflecting to it, is where is the money that who are going to support these entrepreneurs who want to get into this space? Where are the opportunities? Where are the capacities and the skills? The second one was the question of incentives. You know, the government has to prioritize this, so he has to put together some, so the entrepreneurs and the investors will take advantage of that. The third one is, whatever you say, you got to put some money there, you have to invest. And the fourth one, and this is an important one, there are a lot of people in communities and others who are not in. So you need to emphasize the critical part of implementation support, through skills, to capacity, to knowledge. So those four elements, again, information, incentives, investment, and implementation support, make up the framework which will allow us to replicate inclusive business.
We were very restricted about what we actually could legally do, the framework we could set up. So this made the most sense. What I will say, it's a one-way flow. So no money will ever go back to Mauritius to be sort of held and put aside. Any money that's actually made by the fund will be reinvested in East Africa.